I'm Ameera Shah. I'm the promoter, MD and CEO of Metropolis Healthcare. Metropolis is actually a multinational chain of pathology laboratories across the emerging market space. We're in 7 countries, mostly South Asia, Middle East and Africa. I grew up in Bombay, but I think after my 10th I decided I wanted to sort of go to the US. The other big reason, of course, for wanting to go to the US was I had no clue what I wanted to do. Like every teenage person, I went through lots of different phases of I want to be an interior designer, I want to be a fashion designer, I want to be a jeweler. I remember talking to my dad and I said, I think I'm going to Bolivia. And he said, you're doing what? He said, what's wrong with you? He said, you want to keep going and doing all these different experiences. Don't you think it's time to start your career?
Once she asked me a question that, Dad, everybody is saying India shining, the future of economy is going to be in India. India was going gung-ho. Where do you think I'll have a better scope? So that is the time I told her, I said, see, that if you want to become a top executive in the world, then you have got a fantastic break in terms of Goldman Sachs where you can grow to the ultimate heights. But I said, if you want to become a top, a very good entrepreneur, then for you to become an entrepreneur from zero in USA is going to be difficult. While here we have got something going, so if you come and join, then it will be easier. She said, okay, I'll get back to you. Then after a week she called me up, she said, I'm coming back.
So the question was, can I create a group or an umbrella that sort of created an indigenous fax lab chain. So I changed the name from Dr. Sushil Shah's lab to Metropolis. And in 2001, 2002, we started the journey. Really making this not only a South Bombay lab, but making this a pan-India chain of labs. We also said that we want Metropolis to reflect a culture of empathy. Because people, when they're coming, when they're not well, are usually vulnerable. They're usually anxious, they're nervous, they're worried. And if we can be that friend of theirs who holds their hand and says, look, we understand.
Take a deep breath.
And make sure that when we were taking care of a client sample or a patient sample, we treated it like it was my mother's sample. And that feeling of ownership, that feeling of wanting to make sure that every report is correct, is done in a compassionate manner and is done with the utmost integrity possible, have really been the pillars, I think, of the Metropolis story. So we're at the reference lab of Metropolis, and it's about, a square feet of about 40,000 square feet. We do about 7,000 to 8,000 samples per day in this lab, which means about 20 to 25,000 tests per day. And this is a live production unit, which means samples come in from not only across India, about 350 cities across India, but 6 other countries into this facility. We have about 700 people working in this facility. It works round the clock, 365 days a year. And it's pretty much state-of-the-art. We follow global practices. We're accredited by global accreditation agencies like College of American Pathologists. In this facility alone, we've got about 100 different technologies. Most people, when they come here, they are pretty much blown away because this is never the way they imagine a pathology laboratory in India. We're always ranked in the top 1% of labs in the world. The way we're able to really keep our costs low in India is, of course, we operate off a lower cost base here. So we do 4,500 varieties of tests, but we try to make sure that each one of them has the minimum volume required to be able to perform it. Medical liability and insurance are huge costs in the US, which are not there in India. In India, I think what we do have is qualified manpower that's not as expensive as in the US. But I think it's a combination of not having regulatory costs, of cheaper labor, and also just really, the Indian habit of really keeping cost control, keeping them low. People usually see the end road, they see the success and the fame and the money. What most people don't know, the entrepreneurship journey is actually a pretty lonely one. Because a lot of the times people don't understand what you're doing. Usually when a company's already been around or this practice was already around for 20 odd years at that time, it has legacy. It has legacy of mindsets, it has legacy of people, it has legacy of patterns of doing things, systems. But you need to slowly keep tweaking and changing it, which means you're tweaking people and you're changing people. And that's the hardest part. So when I came in with business knowledge, they were like, what is she talking about? Doing it as a 21-year-old girl is even more challenging. Because as much as we talk about women in the workplace, the truth is this is a very patriarchal country, and we are deeply conditioned, men and women, to treat and look at women in a certain way in society. So even though you're an entrepreneur, you must behave like a woman. If a woman is decisive, or if a woman is blunt, often I know, people will call me cut and dry. The same thing from a man is seen as, oh, he's very decisive, right? He makes decisions on the spot. How does she unravel all the conditioning that she's gone through, telling her every day, you cannot do this. You are not capable of this. This is too much for you. You can't travel on your own. I think for the ability of an entrepreneur is one where you're willing to function with your own thoughts, with your own way, with your own style. And it's a pretty lonely journey. To me, honestly, rejection or not succeeding, and I've not succeeded at many things, right? I used to be married. I'm not married anymore. That relationship didn't work out. It was probably one of the most difficult things I went through. One where I felt very bad about myself. It was one where I wasn't at peace. There was a lot of stress. So to me, as long as every experience in life is seen for what it is, where it is a learning journey, it's an opportunity to figure out who you are. And as long as you keep making that movement in the direction of who you want to be, it's okay. So I guess motto in life is two things. I think first thing is to constantly confront my fears. And I would say the second one is try again, fail better.